This week's parsha, Bahar B'chul Kosai, typically many of the rabbi's sermons, drushes, publications will focus on the tochacha, the rebuke that Moshe, that Hashem through Moshe gives the Jewish people, warning them of what will befall the Jewish people, the travails, the suffering that we all know of so well. And that rebuke shakes us and gets us to turn and focus on what matters and what prioritize the mitzvos and what we should be doing. However, this year, I think we are experiencing a toicha. We're experiencing a rebuke in our lives. We're not sitting there tranquilly as we may have in the past and thought about these terrible things that have come in the past and hopefully will not come in the future, but maybe, and try to focus what could happen. This year is happening. We have the suffering, we have the travail. But let's focus instead on what maybe is often overlooked. The beginning of the parsha, the Chukosai, before the rebuke, Moshe tells us what Hashem says He will do for us when we do follow the Torah and the Mitzvos as we can and should. And it says, in B'chukosai Telechu, if you follow in my laws, that's Mitzvosai Tishmeru, and you guard my mitzvos, vasisim osam, and you perform them, then Hashem will give us all kinds of bracha and blessing. And it goes on, verse Pasuk Yud Beis, Hashem says, V'slachti b'sochechem, v'yisrachem leluhim. Hashem says, I will walk among you. I will be God unto you, and you will be a people unto me. And Rashi explains, what does it mean, I will walk among you? Rashi, quoting the Medrash, says, Atayil imchem began Eden. I will stroll with you in Gan Eden. I will stroll with you in the Garden of Eden. Ke'echem michem, like one of you, just me and you having a stroll. V'lo tiyeh mezazim mimeni. And it won't be, you won't be trembling and scared from walking with me. You know, I came across this article. It was titled, My Lunch with President Reagan. And it was written by this guy in the year 2015, 30 years after this story happened. This guy, who was a successful businessman, who had run, him together with his wife, had run a small brownie company that had grown into this huge conglomerate and was sold off to one of the national chains. His business was growing in the beginning. In 1985, was picking up. And by sheer luck and chance, him and his wife were invited to a luncheon with small business owners with President Reagan. And this guy, who was a lifelong Democrat and did not like Reagan's policies, would almost turn down the invitation. He's writing 30 years later about the time he sat at a table and had lunch with Reagan, President Reagan. What did they discuss? From the article, it seemed like not much, honestly. But this was, as the guy writes in the article, his most defining moment in his life. He remembers it 30 years later. That's what he's writing about. And I think we all could relate to that on some level. What would be the opportunity to just have a walk with the president of my liking, trying to leave the politics aside, or a great world leader, a brilliant man, a businessman, Warren Buffett or Benjamin Netanyahu, and have the opportunity just to stroll and just shoot the breeze with him. I think we would all love that. We would pine for such opportunity. And Hashem's telling us, in B'chukosai Telechu, if we follow in Hashem's ways, you, me, will have a one-on-one stroll with God in Gan Eden for eternity. We'll be strolling in the presence of God. Not only will we strolling, God says, I'll be like one of you. It'll just be me and you. Just talking, just getting to know each other, just being in the presence of God. How awesome opportunity, how wonderful opportunity we have. Question is, if we follow Hashem's ways, in this current pandemic, so much of what we're used to has been taken from us. So many of the opportunities of Tishmeru, we can't daven in shul, we can't be mevakar cholim as we're used to, we can't visit the sick, comfort the mourner, give a person a hug, do the chesed that were typical. Yes, there's many opportunities, there's many things we can do, but so much of what we're used to and on such a real level has been taken from us. We can't dance at the wedding of our good friend. We can't answer Amen Yehi Shmei Rabba. We can't do so many things. So how are we doing? How are we increasing our mitzvos and increasing our fulfilling all those mitzvos and being able to reach that point? And my brother brought to my attention a beautiful line in the Chovos Levavos. The Chovos Levavos, the duties of the heart, in the Shar Cheshbon Nefesh, the gate of self-introspection, discusses. He's talking about reflecting on the work that you're doing, you're trying to do, and he says a line. He says, "What you could do, you should try your utmost to do. What you're not able to do in actuality, you should strive to understand it. And you should desire it, you should yearn to be able to do it, like King David said, I desire and I pine to do your mitzvos. And the Marpel Nefesh, the commentator on the Chovos Levavos, explains, and he quotes Rav Alshich with the idea that I think many of us may be familiar with, the concept, the idea that says that the 613 mitzvos have a representation in the 248 limbs and the 365 muscles. These are that each correspond, the 613 mitzvahs each correspond to another part of our body spiritually. And he says, and you can't be shalom, you can't be whole, you can't be perfect in your service to God without having all 613 mitzvahs. Just like your body has all these limbs and parts to make it work as one whole, you need to have all 613 mitzvahs in order to be whole. So he explains, how can I be a whole person? There's many mitzvahs that I can't do. If I'm not a Kohen, there's many mitzvahs I can't do. If I'm a man, there's many mitzvahs of the woman that I can't do. If I'm a woman, there's many mitzvahs of a man that I can't do. If I don't live in Eretz Yisrael, there's many mitzvahs I can't do. So how am I becoming a complete person? Explains the Marpel Nefesh. This is what the Chovos Levavos is telling us. That Yisrak, all you have to do is Yis'ava, you have to desire, V'yishtokek, Masa Yavudei Mitzvah Sheini B'chilto. When can I do them? The Yikayim B'machshava. And you have to just strive. I want to be able to do whatever I can. I want to be able to do those mitzvahs. I have to learn those mitzvahs. I have to know those mitzvahs and I desire them. Then, that's Kamazu, with this willingness, Mitzayir for Kadosh Baruch Hu L'maisa. Hashem makes it as if you did it. And I was thinking, in this time, right, we maybe get, before coronavirus, we may have gotten a little bit desensitized to many of the opportunities we had. We may have been desensitized to be able to daven with a minyan 3 times a day, or be able to go into the shul and learn with a partner, and hear the voice of the Kol Torah around you. We may have been a little bit insensitive to the beautiful mitzvah that we could have by going to our friend's simcha and dance at our friend's bar mitzvah they're making for their child, or their wedding that they're having. And it's another wedding I have to go to. We dance and we say Mazel Tov, and we hurry out, or begrudge that I have to go do another shiva visit and provide comfort. Perhaps now we could actually do the mitzvah more at a higher level. We can reach a higher level of shleimus, of perfection, in the mitzvah of davening 3 times a day, of the mitzvah of davening with the minyan, of the Nisameach Simchas Chassan L'Kala. By taking it away from us, Hashem has given us, has reinstilled in us the craving to be able to do it, the desire. When am I going to be able to, as this quarantine drags on day after day, when am I going to be able to say Amen Yehi Shmei Rabba? When am I going to be able to dance with my friend at a wedding? When am I going to be able to give my friend a hug for the loved one that he lost in the coronavirus? And by doing that, Hashem has not decreased our ability to fulfill those mitzvos and to reach shleimus. He has increased it according to the Chovos Levavos. By us desiring for it and begging and wanting to fulfill the mitzvah, Masa Yavo, I'm able to fulfill the mitzvos that were taken from me at a higher level than when I had them. It's a beautiful chizuk, I think, to us. that in this coronavirus, it's not just the mitzvos that are created that we now have in the chesed we could do from afar, but in the mitzvos that were taken from us, in Mechukosei Telechu, we could fulfill those mitzvos. We could exceed what we've done with the mitzvos that were taken from us, and hopefully we will be able to, by yearning for them. Not only will we be able to do it in the future, we will get credit for doing it now, and we will be able to fulfill what Hashem says in this parasha B'chukosai, in B'chukosai Telechu, Ves Mitzvosai Tishmeru, V'asisim Osam, we'll be able to fulfill all the mitzvos, and that will bring upon us the bracha that we so desperately need. We'll be able to have rain and produce and parnasa and greater prosperity, and our enemies will be decreased. And the ultimate goal of the Hisalachti B'sochachem, we will walk with Hashem. Just me, just you, will stroll in a garden with Hashem. Be'ez Hashem. Good Shabbos.